Welcome back to The Heart of Business. I'm Carla Sonntag, and with me today is a special guest, Cassandra Morrison with Real Broker. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're excited to learn more about you. So we'll start at the beginning. Where are you from?
Originally, I was born in Washington, D.C., but my father was military, so I grew up all over the world. All over the world, and we landed in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
And when was that?
Early 80s. I can't remember if it was 1980 or 81, but it was very early in the 80s that we ended up here.
And what did he do that brought him here?
He was medically retired out of the Army. He served in the Army for many, many years, and he needed a warm, dry climate. And for some reason, unbeknownst to only my father, he chose Albuquerque, New Mexico. We have no family out here, but he loved it when we drove through it years earlier.
Wow. And then as an adult, by choice, you stayed.
Oh, I stayed.
Yeah.
I have no family here. All my family has passed on or moved out. And so it's me now. And I tried 25 different locations. I was thinking about leaving New Mexico. And every time I got off the plane and came back home, the weather was like today, beautiful. And so that's what's kept me here.
Oh, that's great.
I just love the beautiful weather.
It is a beautiful place and so much more that we have going for us. So you're in real estate.
I am.
How long have you been in real estate?
September 1st, I hit 15 years.
Wow.
It's been a minute.
And what did you do before?
Before that, I served 20 years with the Albuquerque Police Department.
Oh, man, that must be exciting.
It was exciting. It was definitely a different environment back then. And I truly had a passion for it.
So what did you specialize in APD doing?
Gosh, I had a couple specialties that I truly loved. One was crisis intervention. When it became a thing back in the late 90s, I signed up for that right away, and that was amazing. That led me into crisis negotiations, which I also truly had a passion for. And I'd been a training officer for over half my career. So I was in field education and field training as well.
Wow. Did any of that play into your decision to get into real estate, or did the training help at all?
Oh, it helped.
Really?
Yeah, I still do a lot of negotiations today in real estate, and I still manage crisis a lot. You know, if people don't get their way in a contract, sometimes you see tears and you have to walk them through the happy process, I call it. But no, it definitely played a big role. And plus, I already knew the streets. So knowing the streets of Albuquerque definitely helped me in my line of work today.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I thought it was a good transition. I really did.
And how long do you plan to stay in the business?
I would say forever, but that's not a realistic answer. I would say definitely, I think I got another 10 years in me. I do, because I love it. And I'm in a leadership role now. I'm no longer just doing sales and listings. I'm also, doing mentoring and coaching. And I have about 204 brokers that I manage in the state of New Mexico.
Wow.
So my day is busy. I still work with a client base. So anybody who needs real estate, they can always reach out.
Well, that's great. That is great. That's a big organization.
It is.
And how is the real estate business in Albuquerque right now?
It's interesting. We have different people give their different opinions. I always think it's a great market. I really do. I don't like to live in the negative, like, oh gosh, we have too much inventory. We don't have enough inventory. I always look at it as we have willing and able buyers to buy the homes that are available. So I don't look at it in a negative sense ever. Do I think we could use more inventory? Absolutely. I think we could definitely use a lot more inventory. Right now, our inventory is approximately 50% of what the normal inventory was. So are we still low? Sure. But we still have a lot more homes than we had during COVID. I was following during COVID just something I chose to do on my own. Nobody told me to do it. But I was just looking within the city of Albuquerque city limits, detached properties, meaning no condos, no townhouses. The inventory got as low as 324 homes. That is incredibly low.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what are the trends that you're seeing right now? Are there more people moving into the state, or what's leading the whole market?
I'll tell you, just in this year, let's just use 2025 for my business, my personal business, most of my clients have been sellers. That means that they are selling to either move into a different home or leave the state. I've had clients move to New York, Georgia, Utah, South Carolina, all over. But I do see a lot of people leaving.
Do they tell you why? Do you ever have that discussion about why they're leaving?
A lot of times it's business. They got a job offer in another state that's just spectacular. They can't afford to say no. My most recent client, they got him out of retirement they made him an offer in Wisconsin, and he went out of retirement, moved out of New Mexico, went back to Wisconsin.
Wow.
Yeah, it was incredible. And they bought an amazing home when they were here. They didn't even have the home 2 years.
Oh.
And they left. I was like, oh, I'm so sad.
What is the current trend with our younger population? Do you see any difference there about are they staying, are they leaving after they finish school?
It really depends on what their interest is to see if they're leaving. If they want a professional career that requires a degree, they're getting the degree locally. And then they're leaving to go get a better paying job somewhere else in another state. Sometimes they're moving completely across the country. I've had 2 that I know of moved out of the country. One's living in London and working over there. So they're leaving New Mexico. And it's sad. You know, my husband has 2 children. One's 24, one's 26. And we are afraid that that is going to happen to our family.
That's tough.
It is.
That's tough. I've got 2 sons. One stayed because of his job in Albuquerque. One left, and I don't think he'll come back. So that is a hard thing to face as a parent when your children decide to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you said you've got a team of 240.
204.
204.
Yeah, 204 throughout the entire state of New Mexico.
Wow, that all report to you.
Yes.
And how do you have that structured? How do you supervise and make sure that they're abiding by the laws?
It takes a lot of paper management is what I call it, and a lot of forced training. What do I mean by forced training? Forced training is where we have information available to us, like forms updates. We have 2 forms updates a year minimum. Sometimes it's even more. And I send those out and put it as a requirement that they have to acknowledge that they read it or watched it. So that's what I call forced education. Another thing is when they're sending in contracts for me to review, there's a lot of training that goes on with that. Every week, Tuesday mornings at 10 o'clock, I have a statewide meeting, and it's held by Zoom. Everybody can pipe in or nobody can pipe in, but they're all recorded, and I share the recording with all of the, brokers that work for me. Now, I do have several teams. I got 9 teams that work throughout the state of New Mexico. Not everybody's on a team, though. And the team leads, I really lean on them to manage their teams. If someone on their team has something that's deficient, I go to the team lead and make sure that they get it corrected because that's why they're the team lead. So I do push it back on the people who are responsible.
And what do you do? What is your staff requirement to manage all of that?
Me.
Really?
Yeah. I have one associate that works. If something happens to me, like I went on vacation last week for my birthday, she took over while I was gone. And she just manages when I need her to. And usually it's me. We have a company that's so high technology, and that's something that a lot of the brokerages don't have. I can go into one of our back-end systems and get something accomplished in minutes rather than having to call here or go there or go see somebody, make an appointment. We just go in and we get it done with the technology that we have available. When I worked for a previous brokerage, I would put a house on the market. I would go to our marketing person and say, I need an open house flyer for this property. With a brokerage I'm with currently, the minute my documents hit my system, we have an IDX feed from the multiple listing service that brings in all of the detailed information. The next morning I'll wake up, I have just listed flyers, open house flyers, everything I need. And I don't have to develop any of it. It's automatically done.
Wow, that's incredible.
It is incredible.
So what kind of relationship do you have with that, to the company to do that kind of work?
Number one, you have to be part of the brokerage. You can't do it from an outside brokerage. If you are a producing broker, and we have kind of like an 80-20 rule. Think of it, kind of like the normal 80-20 split. 20% of our brokers produce the most work. They are the busiest. And if they are happy with the systems that we have in place, or if they have recommendations for the systems we have in place, we really have to listen to them. And we do. I came up with something when I first came on that it was very, very confusing to me as a new real broker. I was like, I don't understand why you guys have it this way. Explain it to me. Well, that's just the way it's always been. Well, that doesn't work with me. It never has. So I said, why don't we try this? And the minute I did, they implemented it and everybody was happier. And I was like, so they do listen. It's incredible. I've never had that with another brokerage before.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's what helps new brokers that are coming into the brokerage, we have, I can't remember how many hundreds of training videos that they can pull up. When I first came over, I didn't have somebody sitting with me saying, hey, here's how you enter everything on the back end. I just went into what we call Reason, it's our back end, and I typed in, how do I enter a transaction? I watched 2 videos, I could do it. It was really interesting to me. I didn't have to make an appointment with anybody. I just watched them and I could do it.
That's
And
great.
Very user-friendly. Very user-friendly.
So are you considered a franchise to this group, or what's your relationship?
We are a corporate-owned company. So we also have several things where this company, they're corporate-owned, so they offer profit sharing. And again, I've never worked for a brokerage that offers that before. They also offer stock options for purchase and as awards. Never had a brokerage that did that either. So it is corporate-owned. We have people all over the world that are involved with this company. Tamir Poleg, he doesn't even live in the United States, and he's our CEO. We had a COO who worked in Valentine, California. So they don't really look at it. We have to have everybody in Albuquerque, New Mexico for corporate. They don't do that. If they can hire somebody in another country who's the best at it, that's who they go for. We have virtual assistants all over the world. When it comes to onboarding a new broker, I think the last lady I dealt with, she was in Sri Lanka. She can communicate just like the best of them. She's amazing. I had another lady who was in Oregon. She was fantastic. So it's just they hire the best no matter where you're at. And I love that.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. So tell us how the fee structure works. So you're going to sell a home and you have a contract with the seller.
Correct.
How does that work?
So with the new lawsuit that came down in August of last year, the NAR DOJ lawsuit that came down, it was a huge deal, but it really wasn't a huge deal. It was a huge deal that DOJ got involved. And as we know from our own local police department, it's a huge deal when DOJ gets involved. So DOJ got involved and they said, hey, look, we need the buyer's broker's commission to be disclosed properly. Well, what does that mean? Well, back in the day before this lawsuit, the seller paid all of the compensation. They paid the buyer broker, they paid the seller's broker. So that stopped with this lawsuit. When you sign a contract with the seller, and I'm representing the seller and the seller only, I communicate with the seller how much they're going to pay me. Whatever that fee structure is, we agree on. It can be 0 to whatever. It is 100% negotiable. Everybody thinks it's always this percent or that percent. It's not. It's all over the map. Once you're in contract with your seller, then you have a buyer broker get involved who brings the buyer. The buyer broker then has to ask the seller for compensation. And if they don't get anything from the seller, then they have to ask their buyer for compensation. So it's very interesting how it really redeveloped how compensation is given. Because we work on commission. We're commission-based. When you're buying and selling, you're commission-based. You don't get per-hour fees of any kind. We don't even get gas money to take you around to the houses. You know, we get paid when the deal closes. And so I think it's a great thing. I always have thought it was a great thing. I've been doing buyer-broker agreements for 15 years. But now, with the DOJ settlement, you have to do a buyer-broker agreement. So to me, it didn't affect me. It really didn't. Not at all. And all these people are like, oh my gosh, I got to do a buyer-broker agreement. I'm like, yeah, I've been doing it for 15 years. It's great. Yeah, the form's always been there. They did tailor the form a little bit more to make it a little bit more explanatory. But the buyer's broker now has to ask for compensation from the seller. It's not automatic. Another thing we're not allowed to do, which was very hard to really wrap our heads around in the beginning, back in the day, we could actually advertise in the multiple listing service how much the seller would pay the buyer's broker. Compensation is not listed anywhere in any MLS anymore. You can't even hint at it like, hey, we'll give you 3 apples if you sell this house. You can't hint at it at all. You have to do it by form. So I like it. And I've said that all along. They also have a rule that you have to have a buyer consultation to explain these forms. You can't just send it over in an email and say, hey, sign this before we go see the house. You have to have a buyer consultation. Again, I've been doing that for 15 years. So it was really nothing new to me. And it's having the buyer broker agreement signed before you walk into the front door, that's critical. Because now you're getting into a situation where you're representing the buyer. You're there for the buyer's interest, and you need to make sure that that buyer understands that the other broker on the other side represents the seller. And you have to make sure that that's delineated and fully communicated.
But you could be in both roles.
You could be. I choose not to do that because it gets very muddy waters for me. You know, if I sign a listing contract with a seller, that's who I represent. And if a buyer calls me because they saw my pretty sign out in the front yard and they want to see it, I'm still obligated for the seller to show that house. So I will show that house. Now, if that buyer wants to write a contract, I've already put in my listing agreement that I'm going to refer that out to another broker because I do not represent that buyer. I don't. I want to get that house sold because that's my obligation to the seller, but I do not want to represent both sides. It just gets very muddy. And then you have to get into like, well, the buyer told me this. Now I have to go to the seller and tell him this. The seller told me this. I have to go to the buyer and tell him this. And it just gets like this ping pong effect. You have to tell everybody everything all the time. And when I represent a client, I represent one client.
That's interesting because I've seen a lot of brokers like to do both sides of the deal.
They do. And that's greed. I do this job because I have a passion for it and I love what I do. You know, and I have my retirement from the government from my previous job, so I never have to sell another house. I choose to sell houses. And that's why I want to give them the best representation I can.
When you get into a situation like that and a buyer calls you, do you refer it to somebody in your immediate network?
I refer to somebody that I know that is, number one, very good at their job, has good negotiation skills, and has a high level of integrity. And I've got a small handful of people that I choose from. And I'm like, hey, this person wants to write an offer on this house. And then I'll have them give me a referral fee on the tail end of it. So I'm handing them a buyer. And they'll pay me a percentage of what they're going to earn. And they still have to ask for their commission. They still have to ask for, you know, the seller to pay for it if they will. And we do have some sellers out there that will not pay a commission to the buyer broker. They will not do it.
Wow. What would happen in that case if you were that person, if you had the buyer and the seller refused to pay you? What would you do?
I would ask the buyer to pay the commission. And if they couldn't or they wouldn't, I would tell them they need to seek service from somebody else because I do not work for free. This is a business. And some brokers will do it for free. I'm not one of those people.
Do you see that often?
No, it's very rare. Usually something can be worked out. It doesn't have to be, you know, on the high end of the compensation. It could be in the middle. It could be on the tail end. But something can be worked out usually. You know, we've had situations where the buyer couldn't pay all of the compensation, but they could pay some of it, and then the seller would pick up some of it as well. So it's all in negotiations. That's why my criminal negotiation skills come in handy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So you talked about, and a lot of people are used to, in the real estate business, a certain fee that they were used to seeing.
Yeah.
Does that X percent still kind of hold true, but cut in half? Because now you're doing...
I would say it's definitely in the ballpark of half.
Okay.
Definitely in the ballpark of half. Because way back in the day when we were charging the seller for everything, you know, just cutting it by 50%, in some cases, yes. But in other cases, no. Sellers have gotten savvy. They understand this lawsuit, that everything is negotiable. And kudos to them. They should. Hopefully they're as good a negotiator as I am.
Yeah, that would help, right? So on the personal level, tell me about yourself that way.
Oh my gosh, personal level. Gosh, I hate to talk about myself, Carla. You know this.
Well, recently married.
I recently got married in March of last year, so it's just been over a year. He's amazing. He's like the perfect person on the planet for me. And I've known him for about 21 years, which a lot of people freak out. They're like, oh my gosh. True story. When I was a training officer with the Albuquerque Police Department, he came on the police department as a reservist. And that means he basically came on as a volunteer. And they have to go through training too. So I was his field training officer. So I got to train him on his second phase of OJT. We rode in a car together for 30 days. And on the last, I think it was the day before last that we were riding together, his next training officer got into a major traffic accident, really bad down at 5th and Lomas. And so he wasn't going to be able to go on to phase 3. So I just called up and asked operations review, hey, can I just keep him another 30 days so he can finish? And they're like, yeah, sure. So I had him for 2 phases of his OJT, and he was a reservist with APD for like 16 years. He did the job for free. So,
Wow.
yeah, and we parted ways. I'm like, have a nice life and, enjoy your family and kids. And our paths crossed many years later, and it was perfect timing for both of us. So he's remarkable.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, couldn't ask for anybody better.
That's great. So what do you do in your free time?
Work. Really. I mean, I do a lot of work. I have a home that we live in that I'm finally finishing the renovations. I just had 3 more things done this morning, but finishing up on that, and then I'll probably pick up another project house somewhere down the line to do another project. A lot of travel. I love to travel. We just got back from Mexico Tuesday night, so he took me to Mexico for my birthday, which was awesome.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. Another year older, one more, turn around the sun. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. So what would you say professionally has been the biggest obstacle that you've had to overcome in either of your careers?
I'll tell you, in both of the careers, it's the same thing. It's integrity. Lack of integrity has been a challenge on both careers. People who want to do something that's outside of the scope of the law, somebody who wants to do something outside of the scope of what we call our code of ethics. It's been challenging because my daddy raised me as a rule follower. He was military, and you did not go outside of the rules. So it's very, very hard for me to look around that. And I saw it on both sides.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was known for, and still am, that, if you want to know the right way to do it, just ask Cass. She'll tell you, and I will. I sit as chair of Pro Standards, which is professional standards in the Greater Albuquerque Association of Realtors. And we are the judiciary for people who violate the code of ethics. And it is an absolute honor to be a member of that community. It really is. I cherish that committee so much because sometimes people need to be told and shown that behavior is not acceptable. You will be penalized. And usually it's in the form of a huge fine. It can be up to $15,000 on the first fine. It's incredibly high. And if that doesn't deter somebody, I don't know what would. I really don't. And
do you see that a lot in your industry? Is there a lot of violations?
there are violations that go unreported for fear that they would be retaliated against. And I saw the same thing in APD. A lot of violations went unreported because people felt like they would be blackballed. How do you report somebody for doing bad behavior anonymously? You can't. You really can't. And so it's tough. And when we do have the strong brokers that come forward with the complaint and take the complaint forward, you just want to cheer for them. It's like, thank you. Just thank you for bringing it forward. I don't know how this is going to end up, but just thank you. And word's getting out there. The last 2 hearings I've sat on, there were some very stiff fines handed down. Very stiff fines. And I'm hoping that somehow the people who were affected by those fines put the word out like, I got caught and I had to pay a big fine. Don't do that. Use it as a deterrent to do the right thing. That's all I want.
Do you, with that group that you're in, do you publish those decisions?
No, it's all executive committee. So we don't publish any of them. They stay on file in the employee file, the realtor file. So that's where we have access to them. But like if somebody wanted to go there and say, hey, has Cassandra ever had a fine? We wouldn't be able to tell them.
Can you use that as a training opportunity, though, in your continuing education?
Indirectly, we do. We use case studies without mentioning any names, any brokerages, any dates, any property addresses. We use them as case studies. And to me, that's very effective. Like, look what, broker A did. And we don't even like to say, look what Cassandra did. We look what broker A did. And this is how it turned out. Do you want to be that person? So we do use them a lot for case studies. And they do the same thing up at New Mexico Association of Realtors. With the cases that they see, they use them as case studies for training. And I wish more companies, I wish APD did it. APD didn't do it. We had officers who were murdered. And I don't want to know the details. I just want to know how we can make sure it doesn't happen again. And they would never debrief an officer-involved shooting where an officer got hurt. And it made me sad. I'm not there to judge the officers. I just want to know how we can be better to make sure that it doesn't happen. Same thing in real estate. Same exact thing. I don't care who got the penalty, but how can we learn from it and not do that again? That's it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we've got to use our failures as gain.
Absolutely.
Gain of knowledge and better behavior.
100%. And people say, we don't want history to repeat itself. Sometimes we do, but not always. And if you know what history has taught us, is take a lesson from it. Take a lesson and do better. Do better.
Absolutely. So what is the one thing that you would want people to understand about your industry that you think the general public does not?
I think the number one thing I would love for the public to understand is we are professionals. We are not used car salesmen. We don't sell furniture. We are professionals. And one of the, stories that I like to tell people is if you have a cardiac issue, you have a heart issue, when you go into the doctor's office, do you ask for the cheapest doctor? No, you don't. You want the best of the best. Whatever that's going to cost you, you want the best. Same thing in real estate. You are dealing with one of the largest financial commitments of your life. Maybe not the largest, but one of them. So you should hire the best of the best. And that's where I think our compensation gets jeopardized. People are like, oh, all you're going to do is paperwork. Oh, no, honey. That's not all we do. Paperwork is a big part of it. Do you know that the average purchase package of documents is about 85 pages? 85 pages that I, as the professional, have to make sure you, as a buyer, understand. That takes a lot of knowledge. I should be compensated for that. Same thing with a doctor. They went through medical school, 8, 10, 12, 15 years. They should be compensated for that. It's the same thing. This industry has a lot of great people, a lot of professional people. Choose to hire one of the best.
How many people are employed in New Mexico in that industry?
So a couple numbers I'll throw at you. For the Real Estate Commission, the one who issues the licenses, there's over 12,000 real estate brokers in the state of New Mexico. 12,000. That includes commercial, residential, and property management. All of them. If you look just in our Greater Albuquerque Association, which handles like Rio Rancho, Las Lunas, Edgewood, that kind of area, Placitas, just this small little area of the state, we have about 4,200. And as of this morning, we have about 2,700 homes to sell. So it's about a 2-for-1.
Wow.
You get 2 brokers to every house that's available.
So a little bit slim right now.
A little bit slim.
Wow.
It's a battlefield out there. It
Yeah.
really is. One of the things I like to tell my clients is, I guide moves by precision, strategy, and integrity. Those are the 3 things I live by. Strategy, I better know my market. Precision, I better know not just my market, but that neighborhood. And then integrity, I'd better follow all the rules, which I always do. So that's usually what I tell people is I guide moves by, precision, strategy, and integrity.
That's great. If there were one thing that you could change in New Mexico to make it better for you as a business person to do business here, what would that be?
Leadership. And I don't mean just leadership in real estate. I mean leadership in the state. If we had better leadership in the state, I think our smaller businesses would thrive instead of having to close their doors. I really do. We need a leader or leaders that are going to support small businesses. We are the backbone to this state. People say, oh, well, we have Intel. Intel's in Sandoval County. It's in Rio Rancho. It's not in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It's also not in Las Cruces. It's also not in Santa Fe. Oh, we have the labs. We do have a couple labs. You are correct. That's government. I'm talking the locally owned businesses that keep our cities thriving. I hate to drive down a street and see wood on any window. It breaks my heart. And every day it seems to be becoming more and more prevalent. Even with residences, houses. We'll see houses that are boarded up. That breaks my heart. It's like that's a home that needs an investment of some sort to get it viable for someone to purchase. That's the way I look at it. How can we make that happen? You see a substandard sign. Do you call the number on the substandard sign and say, hey, how do I get my hands on this? It's people don't know where to turn. That's where having a professional can help with that. When you see insurance rates, and I'm a victim of this as well, my insurance has gone up sky high. And I don't understand how people who don't have money can survive. We're paying the highest minimum wage I've ever seen in my life. When I went through the police academy, I got paid $8 an hour to get shot at. $8 an hour. And I'm like, wow. I look back on that now, I'm like, I would never do that again. And then you drive through a drive-through, like I was getting my Powerade today, and they're paying $16 an hour for somebody to work at McDonald's. I'm like, holy cow, that's more than I got paid as a cop. So I think leadership has to change. They have to be more business-centric, not government-centric. What side of the aisle do you vote on? Vote who's going to support your business. Who is that for you? I can have this conversation with business owners all day long. Who are you going to vote for? Whoever I choose to. You got to vote your heart. Vote who's going to support and pay attention. I never used to pay attention to politics. Never, never, never. And probably within the last 12 to 13 years, I've been all over it. Because you've got to get involved. Same thing in the real estate industry. If you don't like the way that the things are headed or the direction they're going, get involved. That's why I got on pro standards. Because I don't like some of the stuff I'm seeing. I really don't. And how can I make a difference? I'm making a small difference. I just want to make a bigger impact. And I want to inspire people to be better. That's the goal. Same thing with business owners. I want the state to be inspired to be better for our business owners. Almost every place I frequent is locally owned. I get my hair cut by a locally owned shop. I get my facials done by a locally owned woman. I frequent local because that's the backbone. Sure, I could go to one of these big, massage places and, they're nationally known. Sure I could go to them. They'd probably be a little bit cheaper maybe, but they're not locally owned. I'm here to support local. And if we had better leadership in this state, I think that would filter down to each city, each county, each community, each township. And that's where we need to concentrate. I want to see every city thriving, not just Rio Rancho. And we border up to Rio Rancho, and they're thriving way more than we are right now. That's huge.
Yeah.
Do you know that they currently have a higher priced home on average than Albuquerque, New Mexico?
Really?
Yes, they do. They are thriving. And it's incredible to me. Before they used to be, oh my gosh, Rio Rancho is a tiny little mafia town. No, it's not. No, it is not. It is thriving in every way possible. Real estate, business, nationally recognized. They're bringing in national chains up there now. And it's like, we have people leaving. It makes me cry. I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I really appreciate you being here today. It's been a pleasure to have you and to learn more about your industry. So much going on. I wish there was more going on that was more on the positive side.
We'll get there.
We're getting
We
there.
got to be positive.
Yes.
We'll get there.
We're working on it.
Yes, we
I'm
are.
just sorry to see people leaving the
I am
state
too.
like you are.
Yeah.
But you made a good point. Leadership can change that.
Yes, it can.
When people want to stay is when we're going to see leaders who lead us in a better direction than we're currently pointed.
100%.
And, the good news is it's easy to see that because we're kind of at the bottom. And so there's really no better place to go than straight up.
Straight up and fast.
Yes.
I'm kind of being greedy with that one, but I want to go up fast.
Yes.
Instead of being 50 or 51, I want to be like, let's go for 35.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good place to start.
It's a good place to start.
Well, thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Carla.
It's been
It's
great.
been a pleasure.